While Final Fantasy VII Remake included a decent amount of materia from the original game, Rebirth has drastically expanded upon the pool of materia that you can find, meaning there is now a lot more room for experimentation and fine-tuning. We've found as many of these unique orbs as we can in order to tell you how to find and how to most effectively use the best materia in Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Before we begin, let's cover the basic elemental magic materia of fire, ice, lightning, and wind. These are, of course, some of the most important materia in the game, as they're what you'll primarily use to target elemental weaknesses.
Nice little workout.
With that in mind, we're going to avoid including them in this list because their usefulness is so foundational and near mandatory for success in Rebirth's combat. The same can be said for the Assess materia, which you start out with, as it allows you to target any enemy's weaknesses once you scan them, which is valuable in every battle throughout the game. Let's start our recommendations off then with the best green materia that you can find. While we just glossed over the individual elemental spells, these spell materia are simply too strong to ignore. The fire and ice and lightning and wind materia can be developed by Chadley in the Grasslands and Junon regions respectively, and they allow you to use a single materia slot to equip 2 elemental spells at once. They have a high AP requirement, so it will take them a long time to level up, but as these spells are so fundamental to one's loadout, grabbing these materia is a no-brainer. Aerith pairs well with these orbs because of her high magic attack stat, but you can also link these combination orbs with a blue elemental materia to give someone's basic attacks a dual elemental bonus, or alternatively, give someone a dual elemental resistance when linked in an armor slot. Whatever you choose, keep them equipped in your party so that they level up as you progress through the game. What could be better than a spell that makes your character's ATB meters charge faster? The Time materia allows you to cast haste on your teammates, as well as slow and stop against enemies. You can first find this materia as a reward for the pirate shooting minigame in Costa del Sol in Chapter 6, and then available for purchase from vendors later in the game during Chapter 10. Casting haste on the character you're controlling will drastically increase your ATB charge rate, and thus the amount of abilities that you can execute. It's also valuable to cast haste on your other party members too, so that their slow ATB charge rates may be augmented during the times where you are not controlling them. Because of this, we strongly recommend pairing haste with a blue Magnify Materia, which we'll discuss more in a minute, so that you can cast the spell once and have it apply to all members of your party at the same time. You can then also use the slow and stop spells with Magnify to cast those spells on multiple enemies at once, which is great for getting a break during a hectic fight. Before we move on from green materia, here are some honourable mentions. The revival materia is only made available much later in the game during Chapter 9, at which point you will likely be sitting on dozens of Phoenix Down items anyway, but being able to revive teammates in challenge arenas or in hard mode where you cannot use items can be the difference between clearing a difficult fight or not. Consider picking one up when you get the chance. Red 13 starts out holding a poison materia, but it can be easy to neglect this spell entirely because he's not much of a spellcaster. Bio will apply the poison status on most enemies and bosses, and it lasts for ages, slowly dealing more and more damage to your enemies over time. We'd suggest experimenting with it and seeing if you enjoy its utility in combat. Now, on to the blue materia. These blue orbs are all linking materia. That is, materia that needs to be linked with another orb by equipping both materia in 2 linked slots in your loadout. Linked slots are joined by a small channel in the loadout screen, and when you successfully link 2 materia, the slots will glow. Here are some of the best blue orbs that you can use to augment your other materia. AP is a resource that you gain when you defeat enemies in combat, and it goes towards your various equipped materia to contribute to their overall quality. AP is distributed at a pretty slow rate in Rebirth, so if you want to accelerate how quickly one of your other orbs levels up, you can pair it with this AP up. You can find one early on in Chapter 3, not long after you split off from Barrett and Red in the Mithril Mines. From this green pathway, climb the broken staircase on your right, cross the thin walkway, and it's all yours. You can come back here from the Grasslands mine entrance if you missed it on your first visit. Some materia require thousands of AP to level up, so it's a good idea to get this early and pair it with materia that you're going to keep around for a long time, like the combination spell materia that we mentioned earlier. We mentioned elemental materia before when talking about the combination spells. The elemental materia serves two functions depending on where it is equipped in your loadout. You can earn this materia as a reward for defeating the Conqueror of the Skies challenge in the Battle Simulator, after you reach Junon and complete a couple of combat intel challenges. If you link this elemental materia with an element spell like fire in your weapon materia slots, your character's basic attacks will become imbued with that element's damage type. This gives you a passive damage boost while also allowing you to target certain enemies' elemental weaknesses. Be warned though that you can't change this materia combo around mid-fight. So, if you come up against an enemy that is resistant to the type of elemental damage that you have linked, you're likely to have a really tough time in that encounter. The second function of this materia emerges once you equip it in an armor slot in your loadout, instead of in your weapon slots. As an armor-equipped orb, your character will gain damage resistance against damage of the linked materia's element. At higher levels, you can even entirely negate or absorb that elemental damage. Using the elemental materia defensively like this can single-handedly win the more difficult challenge encounters for you, depending on how you equip it and who you're fighting. So, grab it early and get it leveling up as soon as you can. Magnify Materia was given to you early on in Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it trivialized a lot of the early game fights. The designers of Rebirth must have noticed this, and decided to give this powerful piece of equipment to you much later. You'll only be able to start playing with Magnify after Kate Sith joins your party with one of these orbs already equipped. Magnify can pair with most materia, and it allows the caster to send whatever their linked spell is to multiple targets at once with only one cast. This can make your damage spells more effective and is perfect for when you have a group of enemies that all share the same elemental weakness, like groups of Shinra soldiers, for example. Alternatively, you could also pair it with team healing or buffing spells, like the time materia that we mentioned earlier.
No big deal.
A spell's efficacy will be diminished when magnified, but the amount that the spell is diminished by will lessen as the Magnify materia levels up. There's hardly a materia that this orb doesn't pair well with, so it becomes more of a question of which spell will you choose to become that much more effective. Experiment and see what you like the most.
There's more to me than meets the eye.
Yellow materia offer unique abilities to your party members that usually don't require MP to cast, unlike green materia. Aside from Assess, which we said earlier is part of the basic building blocks of any loadout, many of these abilities are nice to haves, not necessities, but there's still some equipment here that's worth calling out. The enemy skill materia is one that you can gain early on in the Grasslands by completing the Biological Intel Know Thine Enemy challenge in the Combat Simulator. This is a unique materia that gives your characters access to unique enemy skills, similar to the Blue Mage role from other Final Fantasy titles. Some of these abilities are strong elemental attacks, while others inflict status ailments. You can unlock more abilities for this materia by completing other biological intel challenges in the Combat Simulator as they become available to you in each region. Having access to all of these abilities can allow your characters to target various enemy weaknesses without equipping different materia to do so. Another perk of the enemy skill materia is that as it levels up, it gives small statistical improvements across various stats like HP, MP, and strength. Whoever has this orb equipped can become a very effective jack of all trades throughout the game thanks to this materia's disparate skills and buffs. As far as other yellow materia go, there are plenty to choose from. But for those attempting the game's hard mode after completing the game, you'll want to make use of Chakra and Pray materia in order to heal your party members without using MP, as MP becomes a precious and limited resource in hard mode. You can also make use of the ATB Boost Materia to double your current ATB charge for a character by pressing L1 and R1 at the same time while controlling them. Using this at the start of a battle can allow you to let loose powerful spells as soon as a fight starts, or you can save it for when you're in a pinch. The ability has a cooldown that stops it from being used constantly, but that timer resets when you enter a new battle, making this materia perfect for open world combat. Finally, let's discuss purple materia. Purple materia provide general bonuses for your characters, not abilities for you to activate. The first strike materia can be earned early on in the Grasslands by completing another combat simulator challenge, the Grasslands Battle Intel Horror on the Range fight. Once equipped, the first strike materia provides a small boost to the equipped character at the start of each fight. This is really valuable when exploring the open world and continually getting into new fights, as it allows you to activate abilities like Assess or elemental spells sooner as you start the fight, which can allow you to dominate some fiends before they even have the chance to retaliate. As this materia levels up, the ATB bonus it provides you at the start of battle becomes larger and larger, until it basically fills an entire ATB charge by itself. Steadfast block materia makes it so that your characters take less damage while guarding, while also improving their block by increasing the amount of ATB charge that is gained while guarding. Block already negates a lot of damage against most attacks, and improving how much damage it negates makes it a really sensible choice for characters like Tifa, Yuffie, and Cloud, who can block more frequently than other, slower characters. You can earn this materia by completing the Combat Training Synergy tutorial in the Combat Simulator. Most purple materia that you will find will be of the stat up variety, where the materia will increase one targeted stat for your character by a percentage amount that increases as the materia levels up. You'll find plenty of these, and they all do what they say on the tin, but we'd recommend equipping a few standard orbs like HP, Strength, or Speed Up if you have space for them, so that you can increase their level throughout the game. The more difficult fights later on can call for dramatic increases in health or magic potency, and having a pre-leveled purple materia at the ready could turn the tide. Lastly, the auto-unique ability materia is excellent when paired with certain characters who have strong triangle abilities that you normally have to purposefully manage throughout a fight, like Barrett's overcharge ability or Tifa's unbridled strength and stagger increasing moves. You can develop two of these by talking to Chadley in the Grasslands, and equipping these materia makes it so that your characters will use their abilities on their own without you needing to tell them to. This is great for players who want to multitask a little bit less, or who want to automate some particularly strong attacks. That's about it for our recommendations as it pertains to materia, but there are so many orbs that we didn't cover in this video. So check in with our full written guide on IGN to learn more about the various materia that you can collect as you journey across the planet. You can also find more of our video guides for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, as well as all other things gaming on IGN.com.